Welcome to Coach's Corner, everybody. I'm your host. This episode is brought to you by Sandy Sansing Chevrolet. Next to my buddy, Coach Mark Hobley.
Peace.
We have the voice of the Argos, Will Kennedy on. Will, thanks for being on the show today.
All right.
Yeah, always great to talk to you guys, especially the holiday season, right?
Yeah, that's right. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays, man. It's a lot to be grateful for and a lot to be thankful for, as Hobbs and I can attest. Man, a lot going on. Well, for y'all who don't know, Will is the voice of the Argos, also transitioning from football to basketball. He's also a teacher there and teaches many courses in the media. And Will, to recap the football season, 10-2 season, 1 score loss to Newberry in the playoffs. Both quarterbacks were probably elite for Division II. And probably both may be in the portal. Talk about the season and the playoff game.
Yeah, you look at, and this is a testament to where this program is in such a short time. I mean, this is only our 9th season of playing, and you finish 10-2, and there's programs around the country that would sell out to have one season like that every decade. Make the playoffs, go 10-2. The fact that for us, it's not a disappointment. It kind of feels that way, and I think it feels that way for the fans. It feels that way for the coaches and the players. Yeah. I mean, you expect more, and when you've won a national championship, when you've played for a national championship twice, you've been to the Final Four 3 times in 9 seasons. I mean, that's a testament to what Pete Shinnick did, what Coach Caleb Nobles is doing, and you lose 2 games by a total of 10 points. I mean, lost by 3 to Valdosta, 7 to Newberry. I mean, it's opportunities. We were talking about this before we came on the air. I mean, the things that bother you as you look back and say, man, this play or that play. And it was definitely a situation like that in the Newberry game where we killed ourselves with penalties. And we killed ourselves with penalties all year long. We averaged, get ready for this, guys, 10 penalties a game for about 95 yards. Now, you tell me how a team finishes 10-2 with those kind of numbers. It just doesn't happen. And I kept saying this during the year. It's like Harry Houdini, the great escape artist. At some point, you can't get out of that safe in the bottom of the river if you keep doing it to yourself. It's never one play, right? We all know this. It's never one play in a game, but I'll just use this as an example. We're tied up with Newberry second half. We've got 2nd down goal to go from the 1. We score a touchdown. The crew calls a false start on the running back, TJ Lane. And what he did was he stepped sideways and then went forward. And we've done that about 20 times this season. It's never been called. Well, the referee behind him thought he went forward. So that play comes back. You back it up 5 yards. Now you're at the 6-yard line. 2 plays later, Marcus Stokes trying to run it in, gets hit, takes a big hit, is done for the game. He gets knocked out of the game. And so that would have put us up by 7. Then we lose our quarterback. Then you lose the game. So sometimes it can be just one play that flips things around. Now, that said, Newberry played great. I don't think we played well enough to win the football game. We were in it, but you mentioned their quarterback. I mean, just shout out to that kid. Reed Sharpie is his name. Legend up there at Newberry. His granddad played at Newberry, was the head coach there. His dad is a legendary South Carolina head coach who played football and baseball at Clemson. He's the 3rd Reed Sharpie in a row. His dad, I think they call him Rusty, or Reed played at Clemson. And this kid, he's been at 2 D1s, 2 junior colleges, wound up at Newberry. This is his 7th year of college football. We could have a whole discussion about that. This is a guy, the equivalent of a guy who's 3-4 years in the NFL age-wise. Right. This kid's a magician. Speaking of Houdini, I mean, he purposely, Devin Gibson, who was doing the color with me, was an offensive lineman, our center in 2019, local guy, played at West Florida. He kept saying he's running for his life. I said, D, I don't think he's running for his life. I think this is what he does. He runs backwards. It looks like a playground football game from back in the day. He just wears your defensive line out. The receivers do scramble drill. And as a DB coach, it's impossible to cover for that long. Right. And his receivers know what he does. And so they run the right routes. And he just kept getting out of jams. And we just couldn't stop him. And, it was a tough football game to lose. And I think it's more than that. You lose the game, obviously. You'd like to keep playing. Newberry goes and beats Albany State. They're going to play Ferris State, the #1 team, the defending national champ, in the semifinals this weekend. But it's disappointment for the team. And then you go right into an off season, and then you look up and it's like, geez, half our team is in the portal, half of our starters. And that's just the reality of football now.
Hobbs got a question for you, Will.
Will, I was listening to that cat to the game. That was you and another guy?
Devin Gibson.
Yeah, Devin Gibson. Yeah, that was Gibson. Yeah.
Okay.
he wanted to do it. He wanted to do some color, and I needed a color guy. He's been great. I mean, he's a great guy. He's funny. I mean, but he, I have an affinity for defensive guys, haven't been one. There's something about having an offensive lineman on the broadcast. They make great color guys because, he was the center, right? So he sees everything. He running plays, what the defense is doing. Right. People don't understand. Quarterbacks get all the glory. The centers are really the second quarterback. QB1B.
No, you got to be brilliant. Yeah. You got to be smart to be a.
They got to know everything.
Offensive lineman, and then offensive linemen make really good head coaches too. Yes. Because they know the line of scrimmage, and that's where the game is won in the controlled line of scrimmage. And that guy running around back there, it reminds me of when I was in Alabama, we played against Doug Flutie. 2 years in a row, we lost to him, Will. He would run around back there until guys get open, and it would frustrate us because the defensive line pressure equals picks and coverage equals sacks. So the D line and the DBs work hand in hand. And if one of them isn't doing their job, a good quarterback can kill you.
99.9% of the time you would tell your QB never run backwards, never run 20 yards the wrong way. But this kid made it work for him. And, it literally would look like, oh, this is a busted play. And, man, they've got him on the run. And then he would just turn around. He'd run away from two defensive linemen, and then he'd just flick one downfield to a guy who had gotten open. And they did a nice job. Coach Todd Knight's their coach. He did a really good job of finding some mismatches. They had a big receiver, and they kept getting him matched up with one of our linebackers, and we just couldn't stay with him.
Yeah.
And then
you get in the playoffs.
Bill,
when you get in the playoffs, the coaches are better too. The players are better than the coaches.
Well, you got to the end of the game, and we had one more opportunity. You got your backup quarterback in. We had run for 215 yards already in the game. Wow. And we had a 3rd and 4, about their 30, between the 40 and the 35, and we ran it on 3rd down, picked up 2. It's 4th and 2. Had a one-on-one matchup at the outside. Instead of running the ball again, we threw a deep one down the field. And, you could question, even Gibby was like, I'm not sure about that call. I mean, that's hindsight. You look back, it's kind of what we've done all year. But, that the margins are so thin, like you're saying. In playoff games, the coaching is good. Everybody's cranked it up a couple notches in intensity. And so the mistakes kill and the missed opportunities kill. We had a couple balls down the field during the game that we just overthrew. Little things like that. You lose a guy in coverage, and they hit that play. And so, I always say it's like 6 to 8 plays in a game that'll flip.
It is. Coach Ryan used to say that all the time. I mean, and he talked about it before. We've talked about big plays, transfer portal, a lot of work, a lot of research, hundreds of players coaches have to sift through and watch film. Is UWF expanding their personnel? Do the coaches have help with this figuring out the transfer portal?
Now we all sit in a room. They sit in a room, and it's funny how it works now. Is like they literally will have a big screen TV up there, and they'll watch highlights of guys, but really a lot of it is looking at, believe it or not, fans, social media and seeing who's declared for the portal, and so they're scrolling through and kind of seeing hey, we think this guy might be not happy there, ready to move on, and so you see you go and you find, and it happens fast. I'll use Austin Reed as an example. The quarterback in 2019. National championship kid out of St. Augustine, goes to Southern Illinois. I mean, we found him in the portal. It was a 24-hour thing. Like as soon as you see it, you got to get on it because that guy's not going to last very long. And so it was really a quick thing. And so it happens fast, and that puts a lot of pressure on the coaching staff, right, to get it right. It's the right guy, but we, and you also have to sometimes commit to a guy, not knowing if somebody else better might pop up a day or two from now.
Wow.
And it's pressure on the kids too. It's reverse that for the student athletes, the players. Hey, West Florida's offering me, but might I get a D1 offer? I mean, so there's a lot of pressure involved in this. And so we had obviously Marcus Stokes, the quarterback, went in the portal. Our top 2 receivers go in the portal. Top 2 running backs are in the portal. 2 of our offensive linemen, most of our starting defensive line, all 4 of our defensive linemen, by the way, were all conference. All 4 of the guys, 3 were on the first team, 1 was on the second team. So one of our cornerbacks has gone into the portal. So probably 11 to 13 starters in the portal. That's the reality of college football now. And I hate to say it this way, and I'm not demeaning anybody
Right.
at the JUCO level, for example, but it starts to feel like as a D2, like the University of West Florida, you are more or less a glorified junior college. You're going to bring a kid in from high school. He's going to play for 2 years. And if he does well, then, you know, Corey Scott, our receiver, is a great example. Stokes is a little bit of an outlier. Marcus was obviously highly recruited out of high school, and everybody knows the story there. We don't have to get into that. But Corey Scott comes to us. He's a 6'1", 165-pound receiver with some talent. And we've talked about this before. The D1s aren't recruiting those kids anymore. The D1s want guys out of the portal. Show me you can do it at the college level. I've already seen you do it at D2 or another D1. Bring you in here, we plug and play. Well, Corey comes here, has a great freshman season, has an even better redshirt sophomore season this year. He's gotten a little bit bigger, faster, and stronger. And now some D1's going to get a kid that can come in and probably help them right away. And so until things change, until the NCAA figures this out a little bit more, that's kind of the reality of how it'll be at West Florida. And I feel for our coaches because it's probably not what they signed up for originally, but it's just what you have to deal with now.
Wow. That's got to be tough on coaches, man, because you spend all this blood, sweat, and tears developing these kids, and you make them into the ball player they are. And then they get the benefit of going to, and the coaches in D1 get the benefit of good coaching, you know, these kids, and they don't want to take a risk on high school kids that takes 2 or 3 years to develop.
Well, now that I think you add to that for the D1 coaches, right? I mean, it's not just a matter of them poaching talent from the lower levels and taking advantage of that coaching. Now they're investing money into these kids. And so now as a D1 coach, you got to get that decision right. Because if I'm going to give a kid $50,000 or $2 million, or whatever it is, you know, that better be money well spent, because now as a D1 coach, you're de facto a professional coach, because you're going to have to answer some questions to the guys who bankrolled it, to your front office, so to speak, about, you know, why'd you pick this guy? So, you know, I think we talked about it, I think earlier in the season. I mean, we were talking with Major Applewhite over at South before the season started at South Alabama. And he's like, hey man, we lost 9 guys after spring practice. And one of those was my starting quarterback, who goes to Bill Belichick at North Carolina for $1.6 million. I think Belichick is having to answer, why'd you pick this guy? You know, why do we pay this guy that kind of money for and it's not the quarterback's fault, obviously, with North Carolina, what's happened. That's a whole hot mess. But, you know, it's a situation where you can see at every level the intensity that knob has been cranked up. And so, you know, it filters down. It's from the top down. And so everybody's trying to figure out, what does this look like? So we're out there recruiting high school kids. You know, they're on the trail hard. And our coaches, I mean, this is what they're going to do during the holiday season. While we're all drinking eggnog and hanging out and having a good time and singing Christmas carols, you know, and eating whatever we want. They're out there trying to get these high school kids to come to Pensacola at University of West Florida. And then, you know, knowing that it's like we're going to have them for a minute and then they're probably going to jump on.
Wow. It's difficult, man. That's a grind. That's a commitment. That's a sacrifice that some are willing to take. And I bow, you know, Hobbs, you got anything? I got you. Let's talk UWF basketball.
Yeah.
Well, and before we do that real quick, I mean, because I figured basketball was next, so it relates to what we're talking about with the football. So I want to get you guys' take on this. I don't know if you saw Tom Izzo's comments yesterday, the Michigan State head coach.
No.
So this is the situation. I'll let you guys, since you haven't seen it yet. All right. Louisville basketball, one of the great, you know, programs in college basketball history. They've got a guy that they brought in who has played 2 or 3 seasons in the G League. He's been a professional basketball player in the league right under the NBA, the NBA's development league and now at 22 years old, he's going to college for the first time, and he's played professionally. And Tom Izzo, who's won national championships at Michigan State, very well respected, you know, college basketball coach, an icon, a legend. I mean, I heard his comments yesterday, and I was like, you're damn right, coach. I mean, he just said, what are we doing? What are we doing allowing? He said, I know nobody wants to get sued. Everybody's afraid that the lawyer is going to, you know, take him to court. But, you know, why are we bringing in a professional athlete? What about that freshman who you recruited, who thought this is a good opportunity for me? This is the right place to be. And now you're bringing in a 22-year-old professional athlete on the basketball team. And he this is what Izzo said. This is what struck me. He said, I love my job. I hate my profession right now. as
Oh,
as
yeah.
a college basketball coach.
Agreed.
And I worry that that's where this is all going, as we talk about portal and NIL with football and every sport, really, is that, we have taken what used to be the magic thing about college athletics out of the equation. And now, for all intents and purposes, it's professional sport at the high level.
Amateurism is gone. Yeah, amateurism is gone.
Utah, the University of Utah, I see this week, they are literally bringing in a capital investment firm, and they're going to let the capital investment firm pump in $500 million to their athletic program, which is great for NIL and stadium and whatever you're doing. But now that capital investment firm is going to be the controlling interest for Utah athletics. They're going to set ticket prices. They're going to demand accountability for where the money is spent. And so, double-edged sword, I can see some pluses in it, but I can also see where this could go off the rails horribly wrong. And, they're asking the big donors and boosters to basically buy into this. But I mean, you're basically now selling your athletic department to the highest bidder.
Oh my gosh. There were so many unintended consequences when this started out, that it's gotten way out of hand. And I agree with, and I've been saying for 2 years now, and the people, I don't know, they need a commissioner. Now Saban's saying it. I thought he would have been the perfect commissioner of college football to straighten it all out, right? Mike Krzyzewski, the commissioner of college basketball, to straighten it out. Those two heads together with the processes and protocols and work ethic and connections and everything else that they have, they would have got half of this fixed by now. You can't have a committee doing it. There's no place in the country where they've had a monument or statue erected for a committee ever. Even even the Congress can't get anything done, for crying out loud. You have to have somebody in charge that knows what the hell they're doing, and then sets the protocols, procedures in place, and go from there.
Feels like there's missing common sense. That, to me, that's the thing, is that there's some common sense things that aren't being done. But that just hit me as, we're dealing with our transfer portal stuff, and I saw that and I thought, how is that fair? I mean, like that's literally like, I mean, we've had instances of guys who have served in the military coming back and playing a college sport, after that's different, right? This guy chose to go take some money, go play in the G League, and now because there's NIL money in college basketball, and he can't make the NBA, he wants to come back. And so I'm not trying to bash the young man for taking advantage of an opportunity that exists, but I feel like the opportunity shouldn't be there. That's wrong.
Exactly. I agree 100%. All right, let's talk hoops. It's hoop season for a lot of guys. Still football season for us.
Oh yeah.
The men are 7-3, lost by 7 points to number 8 Alabama Huntsville, and to West Alabama by 3 points. Justin, Coach Mann, is he going to have a competitive year this year, Will?
I mean, those are we're playing Valdosta on Saturday as well. So probably 3 of the top 4 teams in the conference, we're opening with them, as conference play starts. So last weekend, you mentioned Huntsville and West Al were here, and then you get Valdosta at home. Now, you need to protect your home court. Those are 2 tough losses. Huntsville, we were right there. I mean, we lost by 7. West Alabama, you lose by 3 and you miss 7 free throws. Man, those are we're talking about coaches not sleeping. That's the kind of stuff that gets you. But I think this team is better. They shoot the ball better. They play at a higher tempo than we have the last 2 or 3 years. The talent level is better, frankly. I think they're going to be fine. But the problem becomes in the GSC, such a tough conference. If you dig that hole a little too deep right at the beginning, it's almost impossible to climb out of. So this Saturday, it's a huge game. And we've got, a player for the first time in a while that's really kind of that all-conference type guy, a kid named Anthony Igidi out of Baton Rouge, who's transferred in here. I mean, he's, 6'4". He can shoot outside. He attacks the rim. He's a 3-level scorer and can do a lot of different things. And I think the thing we're probably missing is the physicality inside. We've got you've got your guys that are 6'7", a guy that's 6'9", but not really that that beefy dude, that thick with 2 C's or 3 C's inside guy. You gotta have a couple of those, and that's what happened. Huntsville had a kid inside who was like 6'8", 235, and he kind of bully balled us a little bit. So how do you make up for that when you don't physically have that guy? It's not like the NBA where we got a trade deadline. We can go out and find a guy to bring in, so it'll be interesting to see. And really both of our teams, the women too, like the men, 3 guys were back. So 12 new faces. The women, I think, had 13 or 14. Only one player returned from last year. So also, I mean, it takes and at the D2 level, they don't get as much practice time preseason. They don't get to start until late August. So you really, the first couple weeks of the season, you're still trying to figure out how they fit together, what your rotations look like. So a good start, but the GSC is a different animal. I mean, you can have this nice, the men did, especially nice little preseason, pre-conference run, and they went down to Puerto Rico and they won some games there, and they won some games up in Atlanta. But the GSC, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, this is a different thing. You know, these teams come in here. The referees call it differently. They call it like when I was a kid and we were on the playground, you know, unless you are picking up a tooth or have to go to the hospital, it's not a foul. People used to say no blood, no foul. It's like, no, that's not even part of it. You know, over at Little Flower off 12th Avenue in Pensacola or down. And trust me, as someone who was the wrong height for guys that were 6'7" elbows, you know, you take a few. So I think some of our guys that are new are trying to get used to this, like playing in the GSC and what that looks like.
Hobbs, got a question for you.
Will, PSC had a big tournament here. We had Trinity come in here, the number 2 team in the country. They had a couple of 6'11s, a couple of 6'9s and stuff like that. Do we have that type of height out there at UWF? And if so, are we still recruiting out the country?
Yeah, we don't have that kind of height. I think some of that's probably, you know, not the style now. Unless that 6'11" guy can dribble and step outside and shoot. It's not the days of posting up anymore. And frankly, if a guy of that height has that skill set, he's going to be playing at D1. So it's hard to get that guy here.
Obviously, they're from out the country.
We've had some really good, you know, bigger guys come in. Sometimes it is the foreign guys, but usually like 6'9" in that area. We've got the assistant from over at PSC, Dylan Brown, came to us after helping that team win the state last year. And he was at Northwest Florida before that. So Dylan's a young guy, but a great recruiter, a good assistant coach for Coach Mann. That's been a big bonus bringing him in. And you know, I say this, man, that Panhandle Conference at the JUCO level. I mean, I go way back with that, obviously. You know, that's the toughest league. And we've got Christian Valarezo, who's our backup point guard, who's from Milton High School, played over at Tallahassee. He's part of that Panhandle Conference. I played with his uncle Carlos, who went on to become played football and basketball with Carlos. Carlos went on to become an Army Ranger and maybe the toughest person I've ever known in my life. I mean, that dude is he's shown me the bullet wounds from his time in Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, so Christian's a tough kid. We've got Hudson Rowe from Gulf Breeze High School, who's a freshman with us. His dad, Dave, and I played together basketball. Dave was the kicker, David Rowe, at Pine Forest, and then he went on a kick for the University of Cincinnati. So it's such a small world in general, but especially in Pensacola. But we got some local kids. The kid Zach Clark from PHS is on the team.
Tell me a little bit about Zach Clark.
Well, Zach's he's going to play a couple minutes at the end of the game. I mean, these kids are finding out that, you know, staying home's great, but this level of basketball is a lot more than I think local people think it is. And so, you know, you have to bring in guys like IGD, and we've got a great point guard out of DeSoto, Texas, Eric Demings, and, you know, some other Elijah Weiss from down in Central Florida. So, I mean, these guys are high flying athletes. I mean, they're legit guys. And so I think, you know, some of the high school kids, hey, I was the big dog here in Pensacola at Gulf Breeze or PHS or whatever. You come in here and it's like, oh boy, this is a different world, you know. And I think
how is that? Will, how is this possible? The Panhandle Conference basketball is one of the best in the country, and UWF has the Gulf South Conference, which is the best in football in the country, but it is basketball is really good too. Why is this area in Pensacola in the elite, or is it just the Southeast? What is it?
I think football-wise, obviously, I mean, you're talking about football hotbeds all across the GSC. And you know, I got to say this. I mean, I don't know, because people ask me all the time. I don't know that the GSC football is going to survive. I mean, we're just being honest here for a second. We're down to 4 teams. You know, it's Valdosta, it's Delta State, it's us, you know, and it's a tough situation now. West Alabama, Delta is looking to the north and the west towards Arkansas and up north, because now it doesn't make much sense for them. They have to travel a long way to play anybody. You know, 4 teams is not feasible moving forward. I mean, we're scheduled okay for next year, but then, you know, if you don't have 8 teams in a conference, it's hard to build a football schedule, because now you got to find either an affiliation with another conference, and guess what? Nobody wants to play the GSC teams because they're traditionally very good.
Yeah, because they're so good, they don't want to lose. Is the only answer going up to Division I, or
it may be because the 4 GSC teams. I mean, and then individually, schools like us, we reach out. You say, hey, Conference Carolinas, who we've had a relationship with, would you take us? Nope. The SAC up there, who Newberry's from the SAC, and they beat us, but we've traditionally beat up on some of those teams in the playoffs. Hey, what about adding us as a member? Nope. They don't want, and our athletic director, Dave Scott, will say this, like, also what's happened is the university's grown, right? UWF, 15,000 students, will be 16 soon. We're adding things all the time. And it's like, we just don't look like the teams that we're playing anymore, both in the conference and out of the conference. Now, look, does that mean you're going to win the games all the time? No, but I'll tell you this, we're 15,000 students. Newberry's 1,500. And they're a small Lutheran school up in South Carolina. So
Vanderbilt's 13,600 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and Vandy's, just so people will know, like, we have a bigger enrollment than Southern Miss does. We have roughly the same enrollment as South Alabama. If you take away the online stuff for Troy, we're bigger than Troy. So it's we're not profile-wise as an institution. We look like a lot of D1s. But that's we could do a whole thing on what that looks like to jump and the cost and other things. But the landscape is changing. So the Gulf South has been and still is across all sports, a very strong conference. But to your point, Paul, I think basket. It's interesting to me. I spent 8 years up in Huntsville. Both of my kids were born there, and Huntsville. It's funny when you live up there, they don't necessarily say Alabama, they call it the Tennessee Valley. I think it almost leans more towards Tennessee in a lot of ways. Huntsville is a basketball town, folks. If you don't know this, I mean, like, when I was there, they had never had one of the big high schools in Huntsville. There's some big ones. Nobody had ever won a state football title, but they had won tons of basketball. And they have high school tournaments up there with thousands of people in the gym. They'd have to move the high school tournaments to the arena there. So imagine if PHS, Pensacola High, was hosting a holiday tournament, and every year they had to go play it in the Bay Center because 5,000-6,000 people wanted to show up to watch the games. And so that's the difference, for basketball. That's why Huntsville is always the best team in the league pretty much. And they've had great coaching as well. But it's interesting because high school basketball's had its run and moments here, but football has always been the big dog. And you mentioned Coach Hobbs, you mentioned the PSC tournament. I think back, and they used to do it at Thanksgiving. I think back to one way back when Trinity, you mentioned Trinity was here. Three Rivers was here.
Yes.
And San Jacinto was here with PJC at the time. Sam Cassell was on one team. Latrell Sprewell was on another. And he didn't play, but he was on the roster. Sean Kemp was on the other team. So think about that for a second. Plus the guys that were on the PJC team at the time, they ended up winning a national championship a year or two later. So I mean, you had some dogs and some players back then, and I loved it. I mean, you go into that old gym, looks like a Quonset hut over there.
Yes, indeed.
On the PJC PSC campus, and I used to pick up with Roy Jones in there. I mean, it goes way back.
Will, I remember one night they scored 139 the first game of the year, and there were no 3-pointers.
Yeah,
they won 139 and 69, and there was no such thing as a 3-pointer.
I am
sure if you could dunk.
I remember going into that gym to watch Chip Bowes coach Benny Washington, my boy Benny, and Reggie Meadows and Andre and like all these dudes. That was my first, taste of PJC basketball. And then obviously I got to call games in '93 when they won the national title with Anthony Goldwire and that group, Glover Jackson and those folks.
And Coach Swanson,
Coach Marlin. Yeah, Coach Marlin.
Coach Marlin won it.
Yeah, with Pete Penna, who's over there now, has been an assistant there before and at Catholic. I mean, I love the roots of basketball here. It sucks when you get to this age though, and guys like my former teammate and friend Tat Hunter have passed away. He played at FSU.
Tat Hunter from Tate High School.
Yeah, he died a couple of years ago, and I mean, I haven't seen Cliff Letton forever, but Tom Hammond over at Crestview. I mean, there's a rich tradition here in the Panhandle. Dustin Hester, Coach Hester, of course, Jerry Hester. But the Bill Fryman, the late Bill Fryman, my guy Norm Ross. I mean, these are my former coaches and friends to this day. And, same with football, right? I mean, Coach Dwight Thomas from Escambia, Coach T, if I ever see him, we just, you fall right back into, that relationship from a million years ago. And, Norm Ross used to say, he said, I can always tell when he was working for the school district here, he's like, I can always tell when a player calls because, the first word out of their mouth is coach. And so that relationship, that bond stays strong.
Yes.
Coach. That's right. So everybody's a coach, man. That's respect for the coaching profession. Wow. Other in-season sports, volleyball, Coach Melissa Walter, right? 578 wins in 23 years. She fought off breast cancer, and she's also involved in USA volleyball. But
yeah,
I think she, in the last 4 years, she's 115 and 22. She must be getting better with age.
They just wrapped up their season. They got to the NCAAs. They won a first-round game and then lost to Tampa, who's a recent national champ, and it was a real tough match, a four-setter. So great season, won the conference again. An opportunity. All you can ask is you get into that NCAAs, and they had a great year. Both soccer teams had really good years, but both lost in their first NCAA playoff game. So again, football, disappointment. I mean, the women hadn't lost a game all year. Soccer's such a weird sport that way. I was talking with Coach Joe Bartlinski, our women's coach. I mean, you can dominate a game and lose it. One freak shot, can change the perspective and the scenario. So really good fall season. We're in the winter sports. It's just basketball going, and swimming and diving will start, and then spring will be here soon, and then we'll get baseball, softball, tennis, golf, all those things. But the women and men, they're playing Saturday with Valdosta here. The men played a Tuesday night game with St. Leo, got a nice win. And then after that Saturday game at home, they're on the road basically till early January. So
what time's tip off Saturday? What time?
2:00 for the women, the men will follow. And I always say, you think about the student athletes. This is finals week right now, right? End of the semester. These kids are playing playoff games or basketball, in their early season, while they're trying to get their studies in. At this level, you still are a student athlete. You don't get to do a Dion and not go to class and then turn pro. I mean, not the way it works. So, and then also basketball. I mean, these kids, I mean, they may get home for a brief minute. Maybe they're home on Christmas Day, but for the most part, they're on the road. They're practicing. They're playing games during the holidays. Now, they'll tell you that's the way they want it. They want to be playing. They want to be doing stuff. But, while the rest of us, again, are enjoying the holidays, it's business time. It's work. I used to say when we would go on the road, it's it's a work trip, man. We're not here to sightsee. We're here to get a W, get on a bus,
business trip,
go somewhere else, so it's tough for these kids, and they sacrifice some things that I think we all take for granted to play their sport. And, for the most part, none of them are making money. These are not the NIL babies. They're not getting that cash out. So they do it for the love of the game, which is why I still do it. People are always like, man, your schedule's killing you. And I was like, yeah, but I love doing it. I wish I could do every sport, right? I just do football. I do football and men's basketball because that's kind of all I can handle. And, just a secret for everybody, baseball games take too long. If I have to call a college doubleheader, I don't have 8 hours to spend on a Saturday at the thing.
Yeah, so, no way. Not for me.
No, and it's really cool. I mean, we're talking about all these different people that we've known and players we've seen. This is one for you. So I mentioned I was up in Huntsville for years, and I was doing TV sports at the time, and I covered this kid that played at Huntsville High School, and he was a hell of a linebacker. I mean, he kind of became one of my favorite guys. Got to know his family real well. His older brother worked under Mal Moore at Alabama, and he was he actually Paul. He was my mole inside the athletic department. I think I was the first person to report that Saban was getting the job years ago on air when I was still doing TV. I knew about the Mike Price situation before anybody else did, because this guy Joe called me and told me off the record, gave me info. His younger brother, John, is now the head coach at the University of Florida. So John Summerall, I've known him for longer than I care to know anymore. And he's a great dude. Florida fans are going to love this guy, man. He is excellent coach, but also the right demeanor, the right mentality. I think he's going to turn Gator football back around.
Give us a little background on him, Coach Summerall.
Well, John played. He was a linebacker at Kentucky. Had an injury that he shortened his career. I don't know if he could have played in the NFL, but he was probably an all SEC type guy, had a freak injury. I think a neck injury, shoulder injury, derailed his career. Kind of like Hunter Rayburn from here that played with my son that went to Clemson and had that neck injury and probably knocked him out from an NFL opportunity. But, John is like, if you've seen him at Troy, I reached out to him at Troy. I was like, hey, coach, you're doing great things. He's over at Tulane. Obviously, he's going to coach Tulane in the college football playoffs. But he had a press conference the other day. This is all you need to know about John Summerall. They asked him, Coach, at the time they were still like, you think you can make the playoffs? What does that look like? And he's like, look, some days, I think we're a pretty good football team, and other days we are not. And he's just brutally honest. Where other guys are positioning and trying to talk their team up, he's just like, what'll be will be. But we got stuff we got to work on, and sometimes we're just not very good. And I just think that mentality, that his reality check. And I listen. Yeah. I'm not going to get deep into the Lane Kiffin thing because that's an interesting dilemma saga. But I think Florida got the right guy for them. And I think Florida may have dodged a bullet not getting Lane Kiffin, and we'll see. We'll see how that shakes down at LSU.
No, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. Florida did dodge a bullet. They got the right guy. I agree 100%. Will. All right.
Here's another one. Here's another one for you this week. The story that popped 2 days ago, right? So years ago, that same time period, there's a kid playing quarterback at Athens High School in Alabama. His dad, Steve, is the coach, and it gets to signing day, and we're going to figure out where this guy's going to go. So we go to his house, and he's not home from practice yet, and we go up there, and his dad says, hey, he's not home yet. Got some leaves in the yard. Why don't you and the photographer grab a rake? Yeah. While we're waiting. So I'll give you the name here. I'm raking Steve Rivers' yard, waiting for Philip to come home to tell us where he's going to go to college. And if you've seen it, 44 years old, Philip Rivers is going to come out of retirement, hadn't played since 2020, and join the Colts. Philip Rivers is one of my favorite people. If you've ever watched his trash talk stuff. So these are guys like, I came down and covered the Senior Bowl when Philip was there, and, caught him in the locker room once or twice through the years at NFL games. And what a weird week. 44-year-old dude's going to come out and hadn't thrown a football in 5 years.
Literally come off the couch.
It feels to me like they're bringing him in as a emergency, but also, man, who better to bring in if you've got some young quarterbacks that are thrown into the fire because you've lost your starter, having a guy on the sideline that can walk them through whatever. Just absolutely. Plus you give the other team a hard time in a completely non-profane way. He never curses, but he does talk the most trash.
I got to get him on the show, man. We got to get him.
Oh yeah, he's coaching. He's coaching right across the state.
He's coaching over there. I've been meaning to go over there. I need to go over there and see him.
Great dude, and his dad Steve is a legendary high school coach up in Decatur and Athens. And
is he?
Steve had moved out to San Diego when Phil was the Chargers, quarterback, and Steve was living out there. Of course, Philip and his wife have, I think, 11 kids. So, man, wow. So people are like, why do you think he's coming out of retirement? I was like, because he needs a mental break. he needs to go out there and get away for a minute. Wow. Actually, he might be the first quarterback. Somebody said if he plays, he may be the first granddad to play QB.
Oh my gosh, yeah. AJ Hawk's got like 8 or 10 kids too. AJ Hawk.
Yeah. But I was like, man, old Gramps running around, still talking trash to kids that are players that are the age of his children, which will be interesting.
All right, well, that's good stuff, Will. Thanks so much. Let's go real quick over the college football playoff. We've got about 5 minutes. We can hang out and talk about it. Alabama at Oklahoma, a rematch. I got Alabama. Will, who you got? Alabama, Oklahoma.
That's a tough one. Obviously Oklahoma gets the win during the season. I think Oklahoma's got a really good team. I think it depends. I say for both teams, right? How do the quarterbacks play? How do Mateer and Simpson play? I know Paul's got those Alabama connections. I feel like the last couple of weeks, honestly, I don't know that Bama's a playoff team the way they've played the last couple of weeks. Now, their resume says they are. They beat Georgia. That game probably got them in, beating Georgia in Athens. But you got to be playing your best football at the right time. I don't know that Bama is right now. This hurts my soul to pick Oklahoma as a Longhorn. You can see it right over my shoulder. I think I'm gonna go Sooners.
I know Hobbs is. Hobbs is Sooner.
There's no question.
All right. Yeah, I can make excuses for Alabama, and we were playing good at the middle of the year. And Ty is a little anxious. He's not playing like he was. He needs to calm down a little bit. I know we get 10 guys hurt. That's going to happen. But I was talking to a buddy of mine who's from Ohio, and he's pretty smart. Chip Bowe's son, Brad Bowes. Brad said, man, Indiana and Ohio State are healthy. Alabama is not. SEC just beats each other up. We had LSU and then Auburn to finish out the year. I mean, come on. We're not playing good, though. So let's move on. Miami.
By the way, Bradley gets that from his mother. The smarts.
Damn.
I'll tell Chip that. Miami at Texas A&M. Come on, Texas A&M. I think is too strong for Miami. I'm taking A&M.
My horns rolled A&M. I've been telling people all year long, A&M's a little bit of a fraud to me, and I think Texas exposed them because they got to play that SEC schedule where they really didn't play anybody till they played the Horns late. They didn't play Alabama. They didn't play Georgia. Right. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think I would go, well, you know what? No. We're going to go Miami. Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Hobbs?
Miami by 2 touchdowns.
All right. Tulane at Ole Miss. I'm taking Ole Miss, but it's going to be a close one.
Well, it's a blowout during the regular season. I think, everybody's giving Kiffin a lot of credit. Certainly, he built that thing and he's an offensive, mastermind type guy. But I think, they got a burr in their saddle, so to speak, those players and those coaches that are still there, the way it went down. I think, unfortunately for my guy, John Summerall, I think Ole Miss is probably going to put it on him a little bit.
Okay. Hobbs?
I'll take Tulane.
All right, Hobbs taking the green wave. James Madison and Madison at number 5, Oregon. This is a blowout.
This is the kind of game this is where you make the argument for we need to change the system. And no offense to James Madison, they've had a great season, but that's to go up there and play in Eugene in that condition, against a good football team. I think that this has the recipe. This will not be a Boise State, Oklahoma situation. This will be
that's right.
The Ducks will be quacking all night long, and they'll win big.
Okay, and then the quarterfinals. I'm sorry, I just have the 4 favorites. I got Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech. Now I might surprise you on the finals. I think Texas Tech is going to beat Ohio State in the national championship game. That's my guess.
I watched the Big 12 game, and I think Tech is a great football team. They're deep. They got a good defense. I like their coach a lot. I just don't know through playing the Big 12 schedule where they are. I'm going to need to see them in that first game. They get the bye, which I think helps, but I need to see how they do against that first opponent because there's some questions for me. Big 12 football is a little different. I mean, BYU is not the team. They were trying to hype them up all year long, and Texas Tech handled them twice pretty easily. I like the squad, but I think people are sleeping on Indiana. They got the best quarterback. Mendoza's the best guy in college football. I don't think there's any question, at least for me. And their defense is solid. And I just feel like, again, they're number 1. And this is the way I felt about Newberry when they came in to play us. They're playing with house money. Nobody expects them to win the national championship, even though they're number 1 and they've been unbeaten and they already beat Ohio State. I feel like if any team is like kind of rolling into it with, hey, us against the world, it's the Hoosiers, which sounds weird to say for a number 1 team and a number 1 seed. But I kind of, and plus I think it would be awesome for college football.
I think so too.
If Bobby Knight University wins a college football national championship,
is Bobby Knight still coaching at Indiana?
No, he's gone. But I mean, Indiana's basketball, right? I mean, nobody thinks of Indiana as football
until Indiana wins some in football.
That's the first time in my lifetime. I mean, they had Antoine Randall years ago, but and that was kind of a one-off thing. This team has been dominant in their defense. I mean, Indiana's defense is super solid. But I also, I would also say this. To that point, if anybody's the team that's been tested, if anybody, and I know they're not where they've been the last couple of years, But I mean, Georgia obviously is kind of like
Georgia's been tested. You got to beat Georgia.
If somebody does, until Georgia's knocked out, Georgia is the team, the most dangerous.
Georgia
team.
and Ohio State are the two favorites, I think.
Yeah.
Let's face it. Those are the powerhouses. They get tested week in and week out. And, if you got to go through Ohio State and Georgia to get to the national title, I'm sorry, you do. And it might happen. It's going to happen soon, whether it's this year or next year or the year after, it's going to happen. Thanks, Hobbs.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
yes,
Will.
Sir. Will.
Appreciate you guys. Have good holidays.
You too. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, Will. Thanks for doing this.
Go Argos.
Yes,
go Argos.
Go Argos and hook 'em horns. I'm going to go down and watch the Citrus Bowl with Michigan. And
you are?
Playing my horns. Yeah,
Got
I never get to go watch my horns play because we're always busy and we're always playing. Right. So I was like, you know what? It won. And also they played over New Orleans in the Final Four a couple of years ago, but I was like, it was a weeknight, and I was like, the ticket prices were stupid, and I was just like, bowl game in Orlando on New Year's Eve, why not? Let's go down there. Let me go see Arch Manning. Let me go,
absolutely.
Let me go hang out with Matthew McConaughey. Let's do
it. Michigan fired the coach, correct?
Yeah. I mean, it's not surprising after all the stuff that program went through with Harbaugh and what they got caught doing and all that. Right. And, the pressure, back to everything we've talked about, the pressure it's always super high, right? Especially at the highest levels of college football. It's only turned up now with all the money and all the other things. And so, you're just not going to get the time you used to get. That's why I think making the right decision on hiring a coach, back to John Summerall, I hope Florida fans give him a minute to recruit, to get the right guys in there. I think they gave Billy Napier a good amount of time. I hope there's still some patience there. Texas is like, I'll use my horns as an example. I mean, they churn through guys a little too fast, and when you're not winning titles, Texas A&M is always my marker for this, right? R.C. Slocum, who, he was a rival, man. He was back in my day, old Southwest Conference. R.C. did nothing but win 11 games every year. Yeah. And they ran him off. And it's almost like the curse of Babe Ruth. Ever since then, how many championships has A&M won? It's this number. It's 0. And they just keep firing coaches and burning coaches. Yeah. And so the thing is like, be careful of what the grass isn't always greener. Be careful of what you wish for. And sometimes you have to build something to make it, to sustain success. You got to go through some growing pains. I'll look at Oklahoma City in the NBA. Bottomed out, get the assets you need, build it up, and somebody was asking me about the Chiefs, right? The Kansas City, like, what's going on with them? I said, well, when you're drafting at the bottom of the round, and not just the first round, every round, year after year, because you're successful. That's why what the Patriots did was so impossible, to win with guys that weren't top picks. And so sometimes an era ends and you got to rebuild that thing. And I think college football, the power programs expect every year, we got to be competing for a national championship. Yeah. That's not realistic. What Bama did under Saban with NIL now won't happen anymore.
Nope. Never happen again. There'll never be another dynasty again at any school. There's never going to be another head football coach win 5, 6, 7.
It's an arms race now. It's an arms race with money and facilities and all that. And it's crazy.
Well, all right. Thanks, Will.
Have a good one.
Peace. Merry Christmas. Peace. Well, that was good stuff. Yeah. Thanks for watching Thursday Night Local Sports Report. Stay tuned for Saturday's show. Coach Andy Panafino, one of my old high school football coaches, will be on the show. Have a great sports week, everybody. Stay tuned for these messages. Without these great sponsors, this just wouldn't be possible. So long.
When it comes to buying your next car, truck, or SUV, you need a team that puts you first. Here at the Sandy Sansing dealerships, we're proud to serve Pensacola and the Gulf Coast with the best selection, trusted service, and deals that work for your family. Just like great coaches build great teams, Sandy Sansing builds lasting relationships with every customer who walks through our doors. Because when it comes to finding your next vehicle, there's only one name to remember. Sandy Sansing can.
Arbitrium Consulting for all your fencing, landscaping, pressure washing, tree trimming needs. Call 850-483-0350 for your free estimates. Serving Pensacola, Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, Destin, Perdido, Gulf Shores, Foley, and the entire Gulf Coast. Arbitrium Consulting is owner-operated, fully licensed and insured. Call today, 850-483-0350, the official landscaper of Coach's Corner.
Hey, Bama fans, this is Will Moore, president of the Pensacola Bama Club. You can find us at PensacolaBamaClub.com. We are your official alumni chapter in the Pensacola and surrounding areas. Membership is available to all alumni and all Bama fans, so come see us at one of our many events throughout the year. Our Bama football watch parties are the next best thing to being in Bryant-Denny Stadium. We even serve authentic stadium hot dogs. Membership, event, and contact information will be found on our website at PensacolaBamaClub.com. Roll Tide.
Did you know there's a place where you can get good neighbor service and surprisingly great rates on your home and auto insurance? Yep, and that place is, ta-da, State Farm. Here's the deal. State Farm agent Will Rentschler is your go-to agent in Pensacola, Florida for the service you deserve at the price that you want. So stop shopping around. State Farm agent Will Rentschler has you covered. Call 850-433-4678 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Legal disclaimer, individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
When it comes to buggies and golf carts, nobody does it like Buggy Works. Hi, I'm JP Wibbs. We've got the largest selection of golf carts on the Gulf Coast. We have a brand new 10,000 square foot state-of-the-art service center and showroom to keep you rolling. We're right here in the heart of Car City at 5831 Pensacola Boulevard. Open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturdays 9 to 3. Check us out at buggyworks.com. Buggy Works. Come by and see why we're the #1 Denago dealer in the nation.
That's you trying to fix the plumbing yourself to save a few bucks. Doing things yourself doesn't always end well. The same goes for insurance. That's why Auto Owners works with local independent agents who tailor coverage to meet your needs and offer discounts for life, home, car, and business insurance. Because sometimes you need a professional to get the job done right. That's simple human sense.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray, and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.